So I wrote here, or we have here on our screen, three ideas that potentially, and I say potentially, could derail the momentum that we're seeing in the stock market, the economic momentum that we've seen to have over the last, let's call it 6 weeks or so. And here they are right there. Central bank policy affecting interest rates. We know central bank, the Federal Reserve will set policy in I guess just over an hour and a half from now. And that'll be their last meeting for the year to set policy. But what are they going to do in 2024? Stock market valuations getting too high. We talked about valuations earlier on the show. I think if stock valuations get higher and higher, that will be a negative and could derail some of the momentum in the stock market. And the third thing I put down on our list as a top three, part of the top three, are geopolitical events, the US election. And so I wanted to touch a bit on that as well. So let's speak about the first one, central bank policy affecting interest rates. And a chart we've had up on the show a few times, Fed funds rate increasing or increases since 2022. You can see many of them here. You can see also, and more importantly, the last 3 out of 4 meetings, there was no increase. That's big because that tells everybody that the Fed is on hold. And many people believe that the Fed will be on hold in 2024. So I think with setting policy, it's not so much we're worried about interest rates going higher. I think it's more, when will interest rates come down? When will the Fed and Bank of Canada decide to lower interest rates? And I think that is what I mean when I say central banks setting policy that will affect interest rates. When will interest rates come down? We know they were too slow to raise rates. Will the central banks be too slow to lower rates? We have our next chart here, which is a Bank of Canada policy interest rate, where you can see the number of times that the Bank of Canada has raised rates. And again, this is something that as we move forward, will the central bank, our central bank here in Bank of Canada, will they lower rates, and how soon will they lower rates in 2024? Definitely will affect the stock market. Stock valuations, stock market valuation. I have that as second on our list as a potential to perhaps derail some of the momentum with the stock market. And we have a chart here on PE ratios, S&P 500. You can see a huge spike in the chart here in 2021. We can put up that chart. There it is. And it comes almost crashing down again into, I guess, more manageable and better levels. And as you can see in the right side of this chart, valuations are starting to tick higher again. So will valuations get ahead of themselves? And obviously with interest rates at these levels, it's easier to get ahead of yourself. If we start to see interest rates pull back, if the Fed and Bank of Canada start to lower interest rates, it will help stock market valuations a lot more. The third point, or the third thing I wanted to discuss briefly, is this idea of geopolitical events, or geopolitics and the US election. And unfortunately, a lot can happen if the war, for example, in the Middle East were to expand, if the war between Russia and Ukraine were to expand, if we were to get some new event pop up, geopolitical event arise, it definitely can affect the stock market for a very short period of time. We have a fantastic chart, one of the last charts on the show today, and you can clearly see here, we can put that up, the impact of war on the markets, and or really any negative event on the markets. You can see here, the one at the bottom is COVID pandemic, and how long it took our markets to get back to where they were prior to shutting down for COVID. 4 months. Can you believe that? It felt like forever, but the stock market rebounded a lot quicker than the economy, and most of us did. And you can see here everything from the Korean War, Cuban Missile Crisis, to the financial crisis, to the 1987 stock market crash. You could see how long it took for the stock market to recover, but it always recovered. Sometimes took a little longer than others, but overall, the market always recovers and moves higher than it was prior to that event happening. So I guess my point is a geopolitical event, a new event, or something to do with the current events that are going on could derail the momentum for a short period of time. But over the long term, I think you're going to be just fine. And lastly, we have a US election coming up in 2024. I think no matter who is elected, usually we see the stock market go higher. And we have a chart to show this as well. Stock market always moves higher in an election year. But of course, depending on which party wins, it looks like here, if you look at the numbers, Republican wins, market goes up a little bit more than if a Democrat wins. If a Republican replaces a Democrat, you can see how much the stock market goes up. If a Democrat gets reelected, how much the stock market goes up, et cetera, et cetera. So there are a whole bunch of statistics, and you can see on the right-hand side all the different presidents and how they fared, how the S&P fared when they were elected. Some of them, unfortunately, took office at a time that was challenging during a financial crisis or something along those lines. So sometimes it's not about the president, it's just a matter of timing, I guess. But overall, geopolitical events, the US election, could derail the momentum of the stock market. Hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully the market is happy with whoever is in the White House come, I guess, 2025 when they take over the office and is elected in November 2024. But overall, those three things, in my opinion, are three things to perhaps look out for as we head into 2024.